Will you put Elon Musk up on the podium for us to ask him some questions?
Oh, sure. He'll be. He's not shy. Elon's not shy.
We're back with Jason Johnson. Real laws, laws of power, Musk and Trump. What do you see here as we end the week?
Well, I think the Time magazine cover is a great place to start because, frankly, a former protege of the man that you just quoted reminded us that no one man should have all that power. And when they do, you can usually just start counting the hours. Elon Musk getting on the cover of Time magazine this quickly in a presidency that is still unstable is incredibly problematic. And all right, I talk to you about this all the time. I don't do palace intrigue. I don't care how their personalities interact, but I do understand how Donald Trump likes to rule. And the fact that it is basically being covered now by the press, that he's not actually running the country, that it is being run by a foreign national and his cronies who have no loyalty to President Trump, that could actually turn into a conflict early on in this presidency that nobody predicted.
Yeah, and it speaks to the governing style where they don't want to deal with Congress, even though they have a bare majority there. They don't want to take the time. They don't want to do the compromise. People forget, okay, it's one party, but even within parties, there are different views about how to do things. There are committee chairs. There are people who have their own elected power. And they've not talked about, the inaugural speech didn't have a big congressional agenda. Trump's not doing much about Congress except saying, approve my people. And Musk reflects that because, again, he had a little dry run over the funding at the end of the year, and it didn't go so well for him. And so what they're trying to do is see how much they can push and break things and what the pushback will be. And so they're on the same page right now. But if that pushback fails, if that work fails and the pushback constrains, I'll give you one headline on the citizenship. The rule of law is something Trump sees as an impediment to his goals, something to navigate around or simply ignore, personal gain. There's now a national judicial order blocking that effort. Musk is doing things that are getting trimmed in the courts. If this all fails and Musk is getting too much attention, then a couple of weeks from now, you could see a shift away from this trial and error strategy.
Well, yeah, all right. Here's the thing. Musk is a business person, right? He's been able to sell us on anything. He could, sell ice in the winter and fire in hell, whatever it is. But he doesn't know what he's doing. He never has. He never has. He doesn't actually understand governing, as you mentioned before. And so what you have is someone who is simply breaking things because they think that's cool. And you have several members of Congress, not just Republicans, but also Democrats, who are finally figuring out when you're dealing with people who don't want to govern, they just want to break, you have to find a way to fight back. To me, if we were to read a headline tomorrow, Ari, that Mark Cuban was running the personnel office under Vladimir Putin, we would say it's insane. That's basically the same thing here. Just having a rich guy who's your friend come in and run the government is not the way things work. But my concern is, even if Donald Trump were to say, OK, that's enough, my ego has been bruised enough, Musk has put so many complications and firewalls in our national security systems and our treasury system and everything else like that, you might not be able to remove him. There may be backlogs and all sorts of technical things in there that allow him access in ways that we never would have imagined. And that's the long-term consequence of either an ongoing coup or just massive mismanagement, or unfortunately both.
Yeah, and from a legal perspective, I mean, Donald Trump won the election, so he can put certain people in. That makes it different than any traditional coup where you're looking at the overriding of the democratic will. But if individuals in there are taking things, extorting things, seizing things that aren't under their control, that are then misused for personal gain, right? You have new legal issues, and the DOJ under this administration may not be interested in that, which is a problem because they have an obligation to enforce all such laws. And I mentioned the law of power might go farther against Musk than current law. But you have a problem with the data. You have a problem with the ownership there. You have a problem with people's federal staffing, which the Congress has already ruled on. In other words, they've governed that. And so this effort to just undo it all may not ultimately be lawful. On the Musk-Bannon point, I want to play a little bit more of Trump talking actually about both of them over the years.
Elon can't do and won't do anything without our approval. And we'll give him the approval where appropriate. Where not appropriate, we won't.
Mr. Bannon came on very late. You know that. I went through 17 senators, governors, and I won all the primaries. Mr. Bannon came on very much later than that.
It's a lot of public protesting about these other individuals. And to fact check, again, the statement here, we'll give them, Musk and his people, the approval where appropriate, and where not appropriate, we won't. This is a claim that plans and policies are being vetted. We haven't seen much evidence of that, Jason. There may be some broad overlap about smaller government. I'll be as fair as possible that that's a general goal. But the specifics, including ones that go to the conflicts of interest in Musk's business activities, there doesn't seem to be any such vetting. It seems that he acts first and then they react to that.
All right, there is no world in which I can imagine that Donald Trump would be comfortable with anyone in his administration having access to his finances, right? And if you think about it, Elon Musk and his cronies have gone in and taken over the Treasury. They've gotten access to all sorts of information in the Treasury and fired anyone who stopped them. That means that any business in America, from the auto industry to, a Trump project, any business in America that's had to do business with the United States, received any sort of subsidies or contracts, he now has access to that information. There's absolutely no way that that's something that Donald Trump would approve of. That's the kind of information that, frankly, other countries would use industrial espionage to get access to. So you have someone who is absolutely running rogue and someone who cannot be extricated from our government. And if we worry about what he might do, think about what was happening last year with Starlink, when you had literally the Ukrainian government, their communication system was thwarted by Musk because he's like, I don't think I like how this war is going. The same thing could happen here.
And so my final question to you, which goes to the leverage, we showed those press barons. I think one of the challenges we all face in making sense of the world is adjusting when things are new. So Rupert Murdoch or Randolph Hearst, we have sort of a box for that. But they owned a couple of outlets, and in different eras that could matter more or less. We are talking now with Musk inside this quasi-governmental role while doing his business, while running X, while hawking crypto, about a whole different scale. We know there are leaders around the world who care about what happens on these platforms and how it affects them both internally and externally in geopolitics. And so what do you think, as not unlike the aforementioned Robert Greene, you are also a scholar and student of power, about how different this is? Whatever Murdoch had in the 80s, whatever Hearst had in the war era, is measurably quite a bit smaller and less sprawling than what Musk has if this or any other foreign leader, any leader really, says, OK, I got to deal with him, I got to push back, but he continues to control mechanisms that matter.
You're exactly right, Ari. It is 10,000 times more than anything we have ever seen in world history. I want to paraphrase Adam Sewer, who just wrote a great piece about this in The Atlantic. I mean, basically, Musk, along with Mark Zuckerberg and some of these large social media owners, they're holding America in like an algorithmic informational cage. So not only can Musk engage in things that are a violation of the Constitution because he's overstepping congressional power, he's bullying people out of different positions, the courts have to act, he can manipulate the public perception of what's happening by just turning up that algorithmic dial in whatever direction he wants to put it in. If he wants people to be talking about the fight this weekend instead of what he's doing in Congress, he has the ability to influence that as well as other social media owners. That is an incredibly dangerous precedent because whereas usually the president has the power of the bully pulpit, if nobody's coming to that pulpit, but everybody's looking at their phone, he's really not running the country anymore.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that speaks to one difference of what Trump knows, someone who famously used PR and social media, was an early Twitter user, about this individual. And then you get back to the fundamentals, which is once the hype clears, what does the public feel about concentrated wealth and power by individuals who may not be out for you on your side, even after a narrow election? Jason, we end the week invigorated, thoughtfully, but not at peace from all the difficult things you've had us think about now. Thanks for being here.